Hi guys, it's Pavi with a preview of the 2026 French Open. It's finally upon us. It's probably the longest time we have to wait for a slam since the Australian Open, but the French Open starts today, and I believe it's going to be one of the most exciting Grand Slams for a long, long time. And the reason for that is I really think it's going to be a wide open event this year on both the men's and the women's side. So we're going to go straight into it. And I will tell you why I am going against the hottest favourite that the bookmakers have ever had on the men's side is Yannick Sinner. So I was speaking to a friend of mine who is a bookmaker, and he was telling me that Yannick Sinner is the lowest price that he can ever remember any tennis player being to win a Grand Slam. He is currently a red hot favourite of odds of 1 to 4. Now, if no one knows what that means, it basically means if you were to put £10 on Yannick Sinner winning, you will win just £2.50. That's how hot a favourite Yannick Sinner is. He is the red hot favourite. And I guess understandably so. He's the man on form. He's won 5 Masters consecutively this year, 6 in total, if you include Paris that he won last year. And he seems to be like a machine at the moment. He doesn't seem to be showing any signs of any tiredness or fatigue, which is, very, very unusual in the modern era of Grand Slams where tennis has become really, really physical, and all of the players now are so physically strong that it's very, very difficult for one person to dominate the Masters without having some sort of break or showing signs of tiredness. But he is the red hot bookies favourite. But I will tell you in this video why I don't feel Yannick Sinner is going to win. I will also obviously give a preview of my favourite player, Novak Djokovic, the greatest of all time. And I will also give you my reasons why I don't think he will quite win this year's French Open. But I will also give you some values and some kind of tips in terms of who I think may well do well at this year's French Open, like the Australian Open, in association with BetRight. Mystic Pav will be back for this Grand Slam. So during the course of the Grand Slam, I will be there giving you some tips and predictions, some trebles, some Mystic Pav boosts. So keep your eyes focused on that. So we're going to go straight into the men's, and I'm going to kind of tell you exactly why I don't think Yannick Sinner is going to win this year's French Open. And we're going to go back 12 months when Yannick Sinner, and we know he loves to win and he doesn't like losing at all, but he was in the final against Carlos Alcaraz and he went 40 love up and he was 5-3 up. So he had a chance he had 3 consecutive match points, which has never been happened in a Grand Slam before, and he missed all of them. And the crowd for Alcaraz was going crazy. But then Sinner had a chance to serve it out. So, he couldn't convert on Alcaraz's break on his serve, but he had a chance to serve it out, and he failed to do that as well. So he failed to serve out at 5-4, and he famously went on to lose that match. In his post-match conference, he said it was one of his toughest defeats in his career, but he said he was also saddened and shocked that all of the Roland Garros fans seemed to be wanting to support Carlos Alcaraz, and he felt that that really impacted him because Yannick Sinner obviously has been given the title of ATP Player of the Year, Fans Player of the Year, 3 times consecutively. So he was a bit surprised when all of the fans seemed to be voting and cheering for Carlos Alcaraz. Now, that is one of the reasons I think coming into Roland Garros with Yannick Sinner already telling us that he felt he didn't get a lot of love in that final. It means that a lot of the Roland Garros fans probably are not going to be as enamored with Yannick Sinner as the Italian fans are. We saw he had a lot of support in Rome. It's going to be different there. And for someone like Yannick Sinner, that could be an impact. And obviously, the memories to bear could be an impact. Another reason why I don't think he wins this year is that he at some point has to get mentally tired. He may not be getting physically tired. There's still question marks about Yannick Sinner. He's getting a huge amount of stamina, endurance, strength. And all of these are what clostebol and other steroids can give you. So there are still question marks as whether he still has any clostebol in his system, because we don't know if he's being drug tested. You know, we knew he was tested in 2024 because we knew that he failed 2 drug tests for having clostebol in his system. Now, whether or not you believe his story that he was contaminated through Humberto Ferreira carrying with him a known banned substance and it got contaminated through a massage, which Umberto Ferreira gave to his physio at the time, Giacomo Noldi. We don't really know. We don't even know if he's still being tested anymore, but we do know that he is showing huge signs of strength and endurance. And is this just his fitness regime? Is his fitness regime better and stronger than any other of the elite players? Because that's what it feels like at the moment. He does feel like he's on a different planet to all of the other players at the moment. And it's certainly, for me, it raises some questions. We know that the media have probably been told not to ask those questions, but I will ask those questions. And it's still a red mark for me, a red flag in terms of his performance and his strength and his ability. So I do think at some point, mentally, playing all of these matches, if we just remind what he's done after Sinner lost his first Grand Slam of the year to Novak Djokovic in the semi-final of the Australian Open, he then lost to Jakub Mensik in Doha, but then he kind of went on this phenomenal run. He won Indian Wells on a hard court. He won Miami on a hard court. He then won Monte Carlo on a clay court. He then wins Madrid on a clay court. He then wins Rome on a clay court. And I think in all of those events, he's only lost about 3 or 4 sets in those whole in all of those events. So, you know, really, really kind of a standout performance from him. But there's a lot of red flags as well. Anytime he seems to go over 2 hours, he seems to suffer from these really strange types of cramps that seem to encompass all of his body. We've seen him vomit. We saw him against Daniel Medvedev really struggling once the match had passed 2 hours. So I don't know what is going on there. Are they side effects of something he's taking, or is it something that he's still not managed to get on top of? So going into the French Open this year, the weather forecast looks to be hot. I think there's going to be players that will take Jannik Sinner past that 2 hour mark, and we know from statistically, we don't. Jannik Sinner's never won a match that is over 2 hours and 40 minutes long. So we know if you can take him deep, players will know he does start to struggle. So that's another reason why I don't think he will win this year. And I do think going into the French Open, he's hardly had any rest. You know, the Grand Slam is the ultimate test in any profession, in any sports profession. For me, I think it's the ultimate test, and he's not had much rest going into that. So I think he is really going to struggle to go all the way. You know, well, I think even if he's not at his best, I expect him to coast through week 1. Week 2 is where I expect him to see struggle. I don't even think he will make the final this year. I'm not even looking at his draw because I think it's a pretty straightforward draw, as it always is for Jannik Sinner. But I think physically or mentally, he is going to find it difficult to go all the way, which is why I'm kind of advising people to stay away from the hot favorite if you're looking at doing some bets, because at 1-4 you're not going to get a huge amount of value, and I don't think it's as guaranteed as pretty much every analyst and every tennis media experts say it is. So there we go. So the next in the market, if we look at it, it's obviously going to be Novak Djokovic. Djokovic obviously has won Roland Garros 3 times. He beat Jannik Sinner. Is no Carlos Alcaraz in the field. He beat Jannik Sinner in the Australian Open, so automatically he's up there among the kind of favourites to win after Jannik Sinner. But I just feel that it's come too quick for him. Now, we know that after the Australian Open, where he played phenomenally well, I think he just picked up an injury in the final against Alcaraz, or I think he would have gone all the way. You know, he played an amazing semi-final against Jannik Sinner, and he played some of the best tennis that I've ever seen him play in that first set against Alcaraz, which he took at a canter, and then unfortunately he picked up an injury and struggled to see the match out. After that, his season has been struggling. He's been struggling with a shoulder injury. Now, I know from my own personal experience, when you have a shoulder injury, it's very niggly. is one of those injuries that takes time to kind of settle, to get on top of. And he has openly admitted that he's struggled with that, and he would have liked to have played more tournaments. He said he has, on the positive side, he has said he's got better. He wasn't ready physically to play Rome, but he knew the importance of getting a competitive match under his belt. And that's the reason that he went there, even though he wasn't well. He said he wanted to kind of get there, get used to the fans, the scoring. There's a different type of fitness when you go on to match fitness. And I think Djokovic really wanted to kind of just have that one match just to give him something. We know, obviously, he lost to Dino Prismic. He seemed fine in the first set. He played a phenomenal set, won 6-2, but then really struggled. He gave it a good fight. It was a good 3 sets match. He had 2 hours, 2.5 hours under his belt, but that's all he had. And I just think that is the reason why I think that it will be difficult for Djokovic to win Roland Garros, because he just doesn't have that competitive games under his belt, that competitive fitness. We know he's extremely fit. I know he's been working really hard in the gym. He's obviously got Victor Troicki now, who I think is going to be a great coach for him, particularly on the grass, because Victor Troicki was a phenomenal grass court player with his serve and volley. But I think, for me, I think he will win a few games. If you look at Djokovic's draw, it is tough. He starts tonight with Mapeci Pericard. He should win that, but Mapeci Pericard got one of the biggest serves in the game. We know that Roland Garros is playing fast this year, so that's in itself quite a risky match. In round 3, he could potentially face Dino Prismic or João Fonseca, who are both young, talented players that on their day can pretty much beat anyone. He then looking at Casper Ruud, who made the final of Rome, one of the best clay court players that there is. Then potentially you're looking at Andrei Rublev or Alex de Minaur. They're both in form, both made finals recently. And then you're looking at Alex Zverev and then Jannik Sinner. So you couldn't have asked for a harder draw for Novak Djokovic. But for me personally, I just want him to see 3 or 4 wins and then get ready for Wimbledon. That's where I really believe his greatest chance to get 25 will be. And if he gets 3 or 4 matches here, he then, if he falls, before week 2 or the start of week 2, he then has plenty of time to prepare for Wimbledon, and he will have that match experience. So that's, I'm hoping that Djokovic could win a few games. I think going all the way for me is going to be too much of a task, coming so soon off his injury. And you've got to remember that clay court is the most grueling Grand Slams, the longest matches, the one slam that really puts your body, asks a lot of questions. And if he's already going into that Grand Slam with a bit of a shoulder niggle, it's more of a niggle because he's had it for several months. So I think it has been a big injury. But on the positive side, he has said he is feeling a lot better. But I think it'll be a great opportunity for him to win a few games and then prepare and get ready for Wimbledon. So who is going to win the French Open on the men's side? And I'm probably going to surprise you on these two, but I'm going to give you 2 that I think have got a really, really good chance of winning this year's French Open for the men's. And then the first one I'm going to say is, it's another Rafa. It's not Rafa Nadal, but it's Rafael Jodar, the 19-year-old sensation from Spain who simply burst onto the scene. He's only turned pro for, I think, just about a year, and he is taking the game by storm. He won the Marrakesh ATP 250. He then makes the semis at Barcelona, losing a close match to Arthur Fils. He then makes quarters at both Madrid and Rome. In Madrid, you remember that he played Jannik Sinner, and it was a fantastic match. The first set, he lost 6-3. He was a bit nervous, but the second set, I actually thought he played better than Jannik Sinner. He lost on a tiebreak. It was a really, really tight match, but he played some phenomenal tennis, and then he lost that cracker against Luciano Dardadi in Rome. It was that match where he had to play at 2 o'clock in the morning. And, I thought he was in control of that match, but obviously there was a delay due to the fireworks in Rome, and that cost him. But I think Rafael Jodar has the clay court game. He's the only player at the moment that is hitting just as hard as Jannik Sinner. But he doesn't just hit it hard like some players and doesn't have control. He's got control. He's got the drop shots. He knows to bring Jannik Sinner into the net, which a lot of players don't do. He's got great movement. He's got great mental strength. So I really think he could upset the bookmakers odds here and go all the way. I don't think he's got a bad draw. I think he's very humble. You know, he's insisting on just having his dad in his box, which I think is really, really nice to see, continually in the modern day of tennis where you have so many prima donnas and so many big entourages. I think that's really, really telling of what Rafael Jodor is as a character, as a person, and I think he could really, really go all the way. So he is one of my tips to win this year's French Open. The other one will probably surprise you as well is Alex Zverev. And the reason why I say it will surprise you is that Alex Zverev, you know, we know goes deep in nearly every major, every slam, every masters, but always seems to fall short. You know, whether he's losing to Djokovic in the business end, or whether he's losing to Alcaraz in the business end, or, you know, more often than not, recently he's been losing to Sinner time and time again in finals. But the reason why I think Zverev's have got a brilliant chance this year is that I don't, obviously, we know that Alcaraz isn't there. I've given you the reasons why I don't think Sinner and Djokovic will win this year. So that is why I think Zverev is going to have a really, really good opportunity. I think clay is his best surface for me personally. He's been knocking on that door so many times. And if you keep knocking, keep going, that door will eventually open. And we know, we've seen it with, you know, Andy Murray took so many times to win his first slam. We've seen others that come so close and finally get it. And I think Zverev, it could be his year this year. I think he's playing really, really well. If he can stay fit and healthy, he's got a fantastic chance. So those are my kind of two tips. I think there's going to be a lot of shocks along the way. I think with no Alcaraz there, with Sinner and Djokovic, you know, I don't, for many reasons, I don't think they're going to be at the top of their game. So it does mean that it's very, very open. The top 10 at the moment are losing left, right, and centre, apart from Sinner and Djokovic, who hasn't been playing. So it's very, very open. You know, I think you're going to see some shocks. There's no one really coming into the Roland Garros with form apart from Rafael Jodor and Yannick Sinner. So I think it's going to be a really open French Open. Into the women's side, for me, I think it's going to be another really open Grand Slam, which it is, you know, all the time for women's. I think that's one of the beauty of the women's game is it's always open. There isn't really one that's totally dominating the sport. The nearest one to domination is Aryna Sabalenka. And I think that mentally, physically, she's in fantastic shape going into this Grand Slam. She's recently announced her engagements. So off the court, she's in a really happy place. On the court, she's not doing too badly either. She's one of the most consistent players on the tour, and I really think that she can go all the way here and get another Grand Slam. Some other people that I think will do well. I think Jess Pegula has come back into tennis in the last few months, just showing how consistent she is. She's always there or thereabouts. She plays a really good all-court brand of tennis, so I think she's going to be there. And the other tip for me has got to be teenager Mira Andreeva. You know, we know that she's a little bit temperamental, but I think a lot of it is she enjoys it. She enjoys playing in front of big crowds. She is really starting to develop her game and go deep into majors and masters and the WTA 1000 series. So I think she's going to be there or thereabouts. You know, the bookie's favourite, surprisingly for me, is Igor Swiatek, obviously because of a great record in Roland Garros, but she's not won a single title this year. So, you know, you can't look past that. She's not won a single title this year, and she's beaten number of times by different variety of players. I think Alina Svitolina has beaten her 2 or 3 times already this year. And so she is someone that is just not on form. And I think since she came back onto the tour after her doping ban, she hasn't been the same player or the same dominance that she was, particularly on the clay court. So I don't think that Swiatek will go away. So, you know, again, going away from the bookies' favourites there. So yeah. So there you go. For men's, for me, it's going to be Rafael Jodor or Alex Zverev. I'm going to go away from the favourite. And from the women's, I'm going to go away from the favourite, which is Swiatek, and I'm going to go with Sabalenka, Andreeva, and I expect Jess Pegula to be there or thereabouts as well. I think Rybakina will do really, really well, although I think clay is not the best surface for her. I think she struggles to move as well on clay as some of the real the top players that move really, really well on clay. I think Rybakina is her best surface for me is grass and then hard. So I think this is her weaker surface, but I think she will go well because she's playing some really, really good tennis at the moment. So yeah, looking forward to it. As I said, Mystic Pav is gonna be on throughout the course of the Grand Slam, doing boosted bets and giving you some tips and predictions. But that is my Roland Garros 2026 preview, and let's see if it comes true. But wherever you're watching it in the world, let's enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Tennis Twitter is going to be a lot of fun. I'm not going to be at Roland Garros this year, unfortunately, but I will be following it closely from home, and we're keeping you all posted. So take care, enjoy, and let the best man and best women win. Take care. Bye.